DIY films, an introduction. So this is the contents of the talk. I'm hoping it should be about an hour or less. So I talk about DIY films, this collective that I joined last year, about the purpose and its creation. Talk about the first film we made, and there'll be a link to watch it, as well as a link to Vincent's 1-minute film. And we can have a little break there while people, sort of look online at those two videos, have a cup of tea or a toilet break if they want. And then we'll come back, feedback questions for both of us. And then I'll talk about the second film that we made, and then talk a little bit about masking. I know some of the club like the technical side of editing. So my colleague Michael showed me this nice set of examples of how he did masking for the climatic ending, which I have spelt wrong. And then there'll be questions at the end. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So DIY Films was created in August last year by John Stevenson, who did the MA in writing at Bath Spa, but found his passion was actually in script writing, particularly screenwriting. And he wanted to make quality films, but with an opportunity for learning. He'd had some experience of making films and found that they tended to be too rushed, too poorly planned, and somewhat chaotic on the film set. And he wanted to sort of start again with the things he'd learned from that experience with a new group of people that would hopefully be better prepared, better skilled, and also allow an opportunity for a learning environment where people could swap between roles and learn from each other, bringing in people who have more experience or less experience. So about half a dozen people responded to his Facebook post, which I was one. And we had several sort of get-together meetings at the Watershed, and we sort of set a target to make one film every 3 months in the first year. We have managed to make 2 in the first 6 months, but obviously things have meant that we haven't been able to make any more since. We began for DIY Films one with a call out for scripts. Although there were writers within the group, we thought if we could get out more scripts, we'd at least have more choice. So that's what we did. We put a call out on Facebook, I think, and maybe some other places. And we got about 40 scripts. And then we had a sort of short group of people that read the scripts to get them down to about 5 or 10. And then the whole group then scored those scripts. And then we sort of decided, basically on consensus, which film to make first. And when we started this process of deciding on scripts and then who would be producer, director, and so on, we realized that we were effectively creating guidelines for ourselves, but actually not recording them. We sort of had an understanding of what we thought we were doing this for, but obviously it was one person's vision that was then getting adapted by all those other people sitting around the room. So we started to do this document, which some of you probably know from your business days, called a Terms of Reference, or TOR, where you sort of write down the sort of rules of engagement. So that's what we started doing. And actually this has become a sort of live document. We realized we couldn't really make it a document that was fixed, because every time you did a new film, you realized there was some issue or some concern or some improvement that could then go in the documents. The document has been updated several times already. And I'll just bring out some of the things. There's an example of the document, but just sort of, it's only 2 pages. But one of the things we sort of came up with was, DIY Films is a collective dedicated to offering aspiring filmmakers an opportunity to obtain hands-on experience throughout the filmmaking process, serving as a zero or low budget learning opportunity to those wanting to develop their skills and knowledge in a filmmaking capacity. And certainly for the first film, it definitely was low budget. We all put in about £40 each. We had a budget of about £500. So say it was, 5 to 10 people. So to go on to the first film, the DIY Films one, which is called One Life Stand. As I mentioned, we got a shortlist down and then discussed that shortlist based on the scores we'd given it, and then the practicalities of making, those 4 or 5 films that scored the highest. And because Michael Worthington, who was one of the first people to join DIY Films, had written One Life Stand, the fact that it was also quite straightforward in terms of location, it was low cost, we thought we would pick that one. the advantage of having somebody in the group who had written the script was that we could actually create a mini writer's room. So therefore there was a learning opportunity for other people to then give feedback on the script, make suggestions and see whether those changes worked. Also by having a writer's room, hopefully get a better film. And so the essence of the story is it's a story of a couple in bed thinking about the other ways they might have first met. So without spoiling too much of the story, you can sort of gives an impression of how they've ended up in the bedroom, and then they discuss the other ways that they might have got there. And you'll see that in a few minutes. We allocated assigned roles and worked on the script in the virtual writer's room, as I said. And this led to a few changes. In the original script, everything they discussed was really between the two of them in the bed, which obviously made it attractive because obviously it's low cost, it's just a bedroom. But actually then that's not very visual, even for a 5-minute video or film. So we decided actually what if those flashbacks were filmed, which then was great, but obviously made challenges in the sense we then had to create those new sets, new scenes. But that was also exciting because we got to work with, props and costumes and, different types of lighting to recreate the different scenes. And you'll see that from the film, how we've created those different environments, different flashback moments that may or may not have happened because they're sort of debating whether this is the way they might have first met. In terms of shooting it, I know some of you like, again, the technical bit, so I've got this off the cameraman. So, as I say, we shot using a Sony A7S II. Pretty sure it's in 4K, although I'm not sure the final picture was. And Chris used a range of different Samyang optics. They're a Korean firm, but the lenses are made in Germany. That's about a £2,000 camera from what I saw online. Our director, she was based in London, Natalia, and she sourced the actors through her own contacts within London. So the lead male actor came from London, but the contacts one of the actors who plays a female part, she lived in Bath. So we had a sort of mixture of actors from different locations. There's basically 2 actors, as well as a few extras, which you may recognise when you watch it. We shot over about 2 weekends with 2 weeks apart. And from memory, I think it was about a day for each weekend, with a few extra shots taken sort of to fill in certain elements of the story. We filmed in Emerson's Green, and some of you might have met Amberley, who came to help on Monkey Bars. She's also in the second film that we'll see later, which we'll see later. So we filmed in her house in Emerson's Green, and we filmed in the bedroom in the park nearby. And in Easton, we filmed in John's lounge for one of the scenes, and also the corridor and the kitchen. And certainly in the main bedroom scene, obviously we tried to keep the minimum number of people. It was very cramped, and Caroline can tell you later about how difficult it was to do some of the sound work there, certainly in terms of soundproofing a bedroom next to a main road and bus route, but it also got very hot. We didn't use LEDs, and the room got very, very hot. And I was quite pleased to be working in the art department, which meant I was downstairs in the cool kitchen, just looking on a screen. Actually, no, it was FaceTime. In the end, we just FaceTimed the monitor, so we could actually sort of learn and keep an eye on the art and the lighting as I was in the art department for this film. And yeah, so I think we're almost there. So that's, sort of the 20-minute point. So we can now have a little bit of a break, and you can see here, this is the link to One Life Stand, and this is the password. Password needs to be in lowercase, and also you can also see here's the link to Vincent's 1-minute challenge film. Shall I unmute Vincent? Vincent, do you want to say anything about your film before we break to watch the film? I'll just unmute you.
Sorry, just a suggestion. I think, Merlin, you probably need to cut and paste the links into the chat area.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't click them.
We can't click them in your live presentation.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Yeah, about the film, there's a YouTube channel I watch like on weekly basis called Film Riot, and they do like tutorials and film stuff for 10 years now, and it's kind of how I got into filmmaking. And they, from time to time, they have competitions, and this time it was a competition for 1 week and to make a 1-minute film. The only thing that was necessary was that the film plays inside because it's lockdown. Yeah, and I didn't manage to finish the film in the week because I have to work, obviously, and cannot stay home. And all the problems of people that have to stay home are not my problems. So I couldn't finish the film, but with 2 days more or 3 days more, I could finish it. And thankfully, Tim agreed to play the main role of the film. Yeah, all hail.
Is there anything you want to say, Tim, about the film?
Tim wants to say something? I don't know.
Yes. Well, it's very nice to be asked. So what Vincent wanted was for me to play a delivery guy. So I had to root around to try and find some clothes that would look like a uniform. And then he said, stick some wings on your head. I haven't got them with me, but you'll see them anyway. Stick some wings on your head, on your hat. So I thought, okay, fine. And then he wanted basically a green screen, didn't you? But of course I didn't have anything green. And then so he said, use a pale colour, a constant colour. And as long as it's not white. So all the walls in this house are white. So I thought, well, what can I use? So I used a black sheet on basically down to my knees, and then I had to use a dark blue sheet because the black sheet wasn't big enough. So I had to dismantle my bed, and then the only room with any lighting control in my house is the bedroom. So I had to basically convert the bedroom into a studio, film studio. Anyway, what was the password? Baby something.
I have to click it in.
Baby.
Actually, Merlin, I have a comment. I mean, I thought it was beautifully acted, and she looked brilliant and acted brilliantly, and he came over fantastically as well. I'm intrigued about how professional they were, because it makes a huge difference when you get really good actors, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always that difficult question. How do you answer if someone says, are you professional? It's a hard question to answer. I mean, they're both, this acting is their chosen profession. But I couldn't tell you, how, I can't remember. I mean, Caroline might remember better, but I know Reza definitely has been in, he's been in 1 or 2 movies. Ellie, she's definitely acted as well in some short films before, but I can't tell you, it's difficult to give you an answer in terms of their level, if that's the right sense.
Yeah, I think that they're both in the early stages of the career, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the point that I find it is I thought it was beautifully done. I love the cutting and the editing. I like the playing on things. I like them talking in the scenes to you. I thought it was brilliantly done and not overdone. I thought it was exceptionally good pacing all the way through. However, there is just this one thing that you can have a brilliant script, but if you don't have fantastic actors to realize it must be very frustrating. And I'm sure over the years you guys have already faced that, unless of course Tim's done it, who just delivers every time.
Oh, saved yourself there, Mark.
I mean, I think, Caroline, you might remember, I think she was professionally trained, but Reza, I think he just thought he'd have a go at acting, didn't he? Is that right?
I don't know Reza's background, but
I think he's British.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember.
No.
I'm sure they both have IMDb pages you can check out.
Yeah. But yeah, we did auditions. I think it was, I think they had show reels that they sent that were seen by the director and the producers, and then I think they did a read through as well, didn't they, Caroline? They did a read through of some of the script.
I believe so. I mean, I wasn't involved in any of that part of it, though.
We lost them. I know we lost the male actor, I think 2 weeks before the shoot, I think. Yeah. So that was a bit of a rush to get Reza. Yeah, remember I picked him up from Bristol Temple Meads and he came with this massive suitcase, just coming for 2 days. This giant. Oh, it's funny. It's funny. And it just barely fitted in my car. Yeah.
How do you distribute the departments of the film? Who did what and why did they do what they do? Yeah.
So it was sort of done through consensus. So I would say, Caroline, I think some people gravitated to what they enjoyed doing and what they felt comfortable doing, perhaps with you with sound, and other people just said, well, I'll just fancy trying something I've never done before.
Yeah, I mean, Alan, who talked to us about post-production sound, did post-production sound on this.
But Vicky, I think she did script editing, didn't she? And she'd never done that before. She's an acting coach.
No.
See her in the next film. I'd never done art department before, nor had Amberley, but we just spoke to the director and the camera person, what do you need? And the actors, provided their own costumes. That saved us a lot of work, but we had to find all the props and so on.
Susan has a question about, well, are they professional? And my understanding is that you're not. I mean, there's some professional people in it, but what you actually do is as amateurs. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So Chris, who did the camera work, he was effectively DOP and cameraman, wasn't he, Caroline? I mean, he's a professional photographer. I suppose he also is a professional cameraman, but he mostly does weddings and fashion shoots. So it's mostly stills, isn't it? But so that's well, he does. It's mostly stills, but he also
does a lot of wedding videos.
Also wedding videos, but he has a team. I think he says he does high-end weddings. He'll have a team of five camera people for a wedding. I think up to 5. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's drone operators, people doing stills, multiple cameramen. Yeah.
He does that all around the world.
Vincent, your thing, talk us through how that was all put together, because I thought it was brilliant. I mean, bearing in mind you did that in lockdown, I thought that was witty.
There was no lockdown for me. I was at work,
Oh, you're doing it at work, right?
Full time, yeah. And after I came home, I had to do stuff for my wife, like building stuff, and then I had some time for filming the film. If I only had lockdown,
where did you get the cool outfit?
Oh. There is that. I have like a selection of stuff. I do like period fairs and LARP and stuff. I do have loads of armor and weapons and everything and medieval stuff and shields and swords.
Brilliant.
Plate mail. So yeah.
And was it green screen? Did you do it behind green screen?
Yeah, but the thing is, I wanted to film it outside because I wanted to have the condensating breath.
Oh yeah, at night.
Dungeon, but it rained and there was snow as well, so it was quite cold here. And there was heavy wind and snow, and it was really cold outside. Yeah, and then there was the time shift, so I had 1 hour less, or it was 1 hour later before it got dark, Yeah, so I had to film it inside with no. Only my lights in the room on and no other lights. So.
Did you do it on yourself, or did you have someone help?
Yes, I asked my wife to press play on the camera.
Play, yeah, or record, yeah. I wondered how you done that. Did you run around?
Yeah, no, I asked her, and maybe it would have been quicker if I didn't.
Oh, but it was all perfectly in focus, which is I've seldom done that when someone films me when I've asked them to. It was properly in focus. It was good.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good, Vince, and I think the only thing I thought you might have done is have a bit of a green glow on your face.
Yeah,
maybe.
The thing is, I hadn't put my room is quite small here.
Yeah.
And the green screen used 55% of the whole room, and I used 40%, and we had 5% left for the camera.
So, no, I mean in the editing.
Wasn't the contrast between me and the green screen wasn't good enough.
Oh,
so I couldn't pull a nice the key you see now is the work of hours, just to click the little buttons and use the sliders to make it like this.
No, I meant because Tim's hovering green thing.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be a little
Yes.
green on your face and your
In post.
Could you not in post?
Yes, I could have done this.
But you ran out of time.
With a bit of time. It
Oh
was
yeah,
like
that's what I'm saying. It's if
it,
you were
wa-
going to
it
do
was a
more
time
editing.
thing. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah, not saying you should have done it, just saying could you do it? Yeah.
yeah, you could. It could easily like change all the lighting in post, but
Yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, really good. Nice and clear.
As a matter of interest, I was dressed entirely in red, not green.
Right.
But there we go. Yeah, I was bleached, I think.
yeah, that happened. Yeah.
It was good though. It's a good concept.
The thing is, I couldn't pull any good key of you because you had black things on you and your background was black.
Oh,
Nah.
yeah.
So
You did say something about that. Yeah.
I had to like hide the crimes by.
Was there a time limit on the length of the film as well? Because it ended quite quick.
1 minute exactly, and there was like the thing was no beginning and no end credits in the film.
No.
That's what I said, and I had to use the whole minute. It was quite short. I would have used like 10 seconds more, but there was only 1 minute.
It always seems strange not to have a sort of a lead out into a credit, doesn't it, at the end of a film? It all seems too abrupt.
Yeah.
You could probably have some credits when he's grabbing for the hacksaw. You could maybe have some really quick credits. It could possibly work.
Yeah.
No.
So sometimes the video stops at the end, like with the last frame. I could edit the very last frame with all the credits just to have
really
them
quick.
as a freeze image at the end.
Vincent,
Yeah.
you said that you weren't able to hit the deadline to enter that film. So,
Indeed.
Is there another competition in which you could enter it?
They announced like another competition in the near future to like bridge the lockdown thing, but I'm not sure what kind of like competition it will be. If it's a 1 minute thing again, I will just hand in this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
But who knows? Maybe it's something else. But no.
Well, you'll have time to hire a really good actor by then, won't you? So you can have another go.
Yeah, not me, because I hate acting.
You were very good, I thought, actually.
Yeah.
I
Very good.
don't think Mark's got any taste. He thought he didn't seem to rate my performance. Mind you, my performance.
I just wonder why someone from the West Country had suddenly arrived in this German castle to free this guy.
This was,
It was a German
director's insistence, I seem to recall. And it's American film competition, isn't it? So you wanted me to play a Bristolian just to sort of jar the Americans, I think.
Very much, yeah.
There you go. See? Blame the director.
Where was the film made?
Bristol and Leipzig.
Bristol and Leipzig, yeah.
All right, because there's a competition which Sue can probably tell you about, which has just been launched. It was mentioned in the latest edition of the SoCo News a few days ago. It's a competition for the SoCo area, which of course includes Bristol, and you could enter it to that as it was made when you were living in Bristol, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, it was made last week.
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
But still, Tim is living in Bristol. Though, so.
I see.
And
Sorry,
he's the main actor. He's like he's the title role. So
right. Okay. No, perhaps that doesn't count then. Leipzig's not very large in the sites of SoCo, I think.
Okay. Any more questions or feedback for Vincent, Caroline, myself, Tim?
what are the plans you have for One Life Stand? Like, what is the distribution goal?
So we've left it to the look at the screen. Left it to the director to lead on which competitions to enter. So
do you have a budget for this?
Well, that's a good question. I think at the moment, no. We spent £500 making the film, but we didn't have a budget for competitions or marketing, which was probably a mistake. But what we're going to do is the director's going to come up with a list of free festivals or paid festivals, and then once we know that, we'll see whether we pull together the money.
Can I ask, Merlin, where
Tim, you're on mute.
Yes. Oh, shall I unmute yourself?
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right.
So, Merlin,
Yes.
I'm just wondering where most of the budget for the film went.
What was the budget? Travel and insurance.
Okay. But did you pay the actors as well?
Just their travel and expenses.
Oh, I see. And insurance, yeah, that's expensive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 100 odd pounds. Caroline, can you remember?
Caroline's muted.
Yeah, sorry.
Was that just for one day's shoot or for insurance?
Yeah, I think it was 2 weekends. Yeah.
All right. Mhm.
Yeah, there was money spent on food for catering, and did we spend anything on props? I can't remember.
Yeah, not
It was
very
mainly
much. I don't
catering.
think. No, I don't think
No.
it was very much. No.
You'd be better to join Bristol Film and Video Society and use our insurance, wouldn't you?
No, that's a thought.
Yeah, don't know. I think we did look at an annual cost, but that wasn't. It was still better to pay per day, I think.
We're not. How much are we paying? We're paying about 100 and something quid for a whole year, I think. Can't remember. It's not a vast amount compared to what it was. It's less
Yeah,
than-
I don't know if it's because we were shooting and we were covering ourselves some public liability for shooting. We didn't shoot in the public, really, did we, Caroline?
But you still need public liability. I mean, if you drop something on an actor.
They're two a penny, don't worry.
There's a queue waiting to take part.
Yeah, and I know the second film we did. I mean, we were shooting outside. I mean, we did have. I mean, we were shooting with the crew outside in the second film as well. So there's always a risk, I suppose.
Yeah. The second film cost more because of locations and insurance. Should we move on to the second part, or is there any other questions for the four of us? Yeah. Okay. Mike, so I'm going to mute you all again, and then get the PowerPoint going. And we'll finish off the presentation. Okay. Right. Share screen first. Yeah, share screen. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed those, and sorry for the technical errors, and we'll take that feedback into the future. Right, so we've had thoughts and feedback. So the second film that we made was called Edmonds. And so we had a little bit of a break. I think it might have been actually a month between finishing the first film and meeting to discuss the second film. And what we realised on the second film is, although we had plenty of scripts, and obviously we had script writers in the group, we thought that actually, because we had 3 actors in the collective, which was Amberley, Vicky and Audrey, we thought we actually would write something around them. And John, the founder, very quickly off the mark, wrote a black comedy with the 3 of them as the protagonists and antagonists. And based on the 2 older women's view that many of their sort of social groups representations in film being rather staid and ordinary, they prompted him to write something a lot darker and funnier. So you'll see in some of the bits, the clip I show you, the sort of example of the type of characters they are, or certainly at least Vicky's character, Jean, is. They're certainly a little bit more rebellious than we would normally see for women of a certain age. So John wrote the script, and we set a budget of about £800. So we all put it. So the budget was the budget. We was actually, the cost of making the film was 800, where we probably put in a similar amount to the first film. So we underestimated the cost. We put in about £500 and it cost about £800 to make. But we had enough money, at least in the initial pool again, to get going. The script was worked on and roles were chosen. So we tried to change things up a bit due to the sort of perhaps less enthusiasm to be producers. Michael and John were still producers again, and obviously they'd done a good job on the first film. I joined them on this production just to give them a little bit of help, and also seeing that it was going to be more complicated film. The film is probably twice the length of One Life Stand, and certainly had more disparate locations, as well as a quite complex ending. And so it's a black comedy, obviously with the clue in the name. It's sort of centred around Noel Edmonds, although unfortunately our budget didn't stretch to getting Noel Edmonds himself. And we had one or two people come and go from the collective. So our sort of assistant director, she had to go off to do other work, and the director, Natalie, she went back to London to focus on making her next film. But we had other people came in, and actually even on the shoots that we did the 2 weekends, we had some people came in pretty much the night before, and some people we even met just had only met the week before. So we tried to get quite a lot of resource, as much as we could, particularly because we had the opportunity to, but also we've had a new DOP, Jack Alford, who was used to a professional setup. So he was quite keen to have both a gaffer and assistant cameraman. So we did try and provide those two roles for him. But that did make the crew quite a bit bigger. More food to be cooked. So in terms of filming, I'll give you a sort of log line for the film of Edmonds. In suburban Bristol, an impetuous, foul-mouthed Atari kidnaps Noel Edmonds and, panicking, brings him to her straight-laced best friend's house. That's Kathy. Only to find that a persistent Jehovah's Witness won't leave them in peace. It's not the official log line, but it's my log line of the story. We had a new cameraman. Jack Alford is a professional cameraman, but he mostly does wildlife documentaries for the BBC. And he has used a Sony F5 with Zeiss lenses, some quite old Zeiss lenses. I don't remember if that was because, I think that was definitely out of choice from what I remember, rather than actually because that's all he had. And I remember the camera he had has some extraordinary setting. I remember that him telling me that it's always filming. So as soon as you turn the camera on, it's recording. And I think because it's for wildlife photography, you don't want to miss anything, it films like 25 seconds. It restores 25 seconds ahead. So it's always recording 25 seconds back in time, which is quite bizarre when you think about it. That's what we had. It shot over 2 cold, wet weekends in Amberley's kitchen, garage and garden. And I have to say the day we shot in the garage was a 10-hour day. We all got very wet and it was very cold. And yeah, it got so cold at one point that Vicky, who plays the foul-mouthed kidnapper, she got so cold that at some point she couldn't actually deliver the lines. So we had to get a hot water bottle that she would hold to her chest. And then she would, when the scene was ready to be the next take or the next scene was ready, we would grab the water bottle off her, she would deliver her lines, and then she would come off, and then she would get the water bottle again. It was something we hadn't quite planned for, and something that was a lesson about taking care of your talent. We also had to use a village hall for a raffle scene, and that required phoning around and visiting different village halls. And I think Westby Village Hall is a beautiful hall if anyone's been there. And I think cost us about £80 to hire for half a day. Obviously, we had paid about quite a large deposit, and we had to be cleared out by I think 1 p.m. And I think we got out of the building at 5 to 1, so we just made it in time. And we also used the director's cul-de-sac in Bath for a scene where they're planning they're considering, I should say, the kidnap of Noel Edmonds. Here's some photos from the shoot. So you can see Westbury Hall on the left, some of the provisions, tea and coffee, of course, a bit of a fish paella there. The health and safety form that we needed for Westbury, the fire escape, the fire escape instructions that I had to read out in the morning. You can see how cramped it is on the bottom left corner when we filmed in the garage. And there's Vicky's character, Jean, who's in disguise. There's the man himself. There's an actor, obviously playing the man himself in the boot of the car. There's John, our founder, in the top middle, testing out the fridge freezer that someone's going to find themselves in. And there's the two actors between takes, Mr. Blobby. And there's Michael, who's one of the other founders, who's our editor. And you can see in the bottom right, there he is with his sort of editing suite. And then just above, that was the day when we were filming outside. And you can see how cold he was with this rather strange objects covering his head. So there we go. And now I'm going to show you a little bit of work that Michael did on masking. So I'm not a technical expert on this. Obviously, a few of you are. There's a chat here. Hold on. Just check on the chat box. Where do you find Mr. Blobby? And so masking is the practice of using a mask to protect a specific area of an image. Masking protects that area from being altered by changes made elsewhere. So very similar to masking tape in your home. Though I found quite a nice YouTube clip here by a chap called Jack Durrett. If you want to know about the other types of masking you can do, because the one that I'm going to show you is just one type of masking. And the reason we had to do it, and Michael had to use his skill as an editor to do it, he does it professionally, as well as for DIY films, was for safety. We couldn't have the actors near, I think I spelled climatic wrong again, couldn't have the actors near the ending where there's a large amount of objects that sort of fall from the ceiling. So we couldn't have the two actors in the background, and actually we couldn't have the two actors in the foreground either, because that's where we needed the camera. Plus, they were still quite close to where these items were going to fall. And because we needed heavy items to fall from the ceiling, we just had to clear everyone away. So the camera was set up in a particular spot, and it was obviously we couldn't move it, because you'll see from, if you don't know already, that for masking, the camera has to be set up to play that sort of visual trick of making two different sequences of film merge together and look like they've been filmed at the same time. So the camera had to be set in a certain position, and everyone was on the pain of death, or at least Chinese burns, not to step anywhere near the camera, the tripod or whatever, for the fear of just moving it slightly. And in terms of the bit you'll see, we had quite an interesting setup with the items that were hidden in this roof hatch. I was responsible for opening the hatch. The cameraman, being very nimble, was the person that, Jack was the person who very nimbly was jumping up each time to put all these heavy items up above this roof hatch that I would then poke open with a stick and quickly draw the stick back. So I'm going to show you the 3 sequences involved in masking, provided to me by Michael, and hopefully that will explain some of what we did and also show you some of the film. Unfortunately, the film's not been finished yet. It's still with Alan Deacon, who saw give the talk. He's got, I think this month, if Caroline correct me later, he's working on the sound, the music, and then I think there's going to be some, maybe if not already done, there'll be some grading as well, won't there? So
yeah, there's only guide audio in these clips, so there's just a guide.
Yeah,
from.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, good point, Carol. Yeah, so the audio on here it's okay. It's good enough for these clips, but it may not be the finished, polished audio. Okay, so just to warn you, now I'm going to try and play this clip within Vimeo, within Zoom, sorry. So hopefully it'll work. I'm sure that you don't need this warning, but anyone is offended by the F word, you might want to mute me now. Okay. So that was, hopefully that was clear. I'll show it one more time. So no falling items. So you can see here on the left is Amelie with Vicky, the 2 actors. And what they obviously are reacting to is Noel Edmonds and the Jehovah's Witness falling down, and then above them, you will see in a minute, there's some items that then land on top of the two actors at the back. So obviously we could film this safely with the 4 actors without any items actually falling on top of them. But what you can see here is actually, you can't see here actually, is there's a crash mat just below sort of Amber Lee's ankle height that the 2 actors fall onto. I'll show it one more time. No falling items here. So
Merlin, I don't know how other people are viewing this, but it's just a series of stop motion for me trying to view it through the app.
Did it not work? No.
I don't know if
It's working fine for me. I can see it fine.
It's working fine for me. I think it's just a bandwidth issue. We can't really do much about, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's good on my computer. It's fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking on my mobile, but perhaps I need to view. Can I view it externally? Is there a link anywhere or not?
No. No, I'll have to send you those separately, I think.
Try it once more for me.
Okay.
No, not to worry.
Okay. I don't know if I can change the resolution. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to change it to make it better for you. Okay, so and in this part of the story, yeah, so obviously you can probably work out that the Jehovah's Witness is rescuing Noel Edmonds, and the 2 main protagonists here at the front obviously are unaware that that's happening, and that's obviously the work stuff going on in the background. So, okay, so that's the shot with the 4 actors, but no items falling on them. And now this is masking the actors with the falling items. So here we have the items falling, and the action of actually masking these people, the 2 actors, through the editing process, editing software, which I think was Adobe. Okay. So I hope that's clear. So Michael's obviously used the masking tool to mask the 2 actors. I'll just show you that again. And so hopefully you can then see, so he's masked the area the 2 actors will be, and obviously you can see the items falling at the back through the hatch. One more time. Okay. And then you put it all together. And if you combine the 2 sequences, this is what you get. And so the particular interesting thing about the character on the left saying the F word is that she tries to resist swearing all throughout the film, whereas the character on the right is swearing all the time and is always sort of disappointed by the prudeness of the character on the left, who finally reaches the end of her tether when this happens at the end of the film. So I'll just show you one more time. Right, okay, so sorry to Oliver that it wasn't visible, and I'll send Oliver the links separately and anyone else who needs them. Again, another good lesson to learn, maybe send the links before the presentation. So what's next? So what's next indeed? So what next is currently, as Caroline reminded me, Alan's working on the sound. As we talked earlier, we're entering One Life Stand to festivals. We're preparing for our next set of ultra short films based on the theme of loneliness or being alone. We've got about 5 story ideas in preparation. Caroline's writing a nice story, and we're going to sort of probably pick. We've got 3 that we're probably going to use, and then we're currently in pre-production. So we're forming teams to then work on the pre-production, writers' rooms, and try and budget for those activities. I'm also trying to create other documents that might help other people as they come into DIY films to understand what we've done before. So for instance, we're creating like an IMDb page template so people can look back through all the other films and find out who did what and any interesting things they can remember that they did that they found useful or interesting. We're also creating this flow sheet, which is trying to record all the decisions and activities we have in making a film. So you can see here, you know, we usually start with the script, and then we have these sort of yes/no decisions that we have to make about how we get the scripts, how we work on the scripts, and then how we fill the posts. Again, just to try and help people come in who maybe have no experience of filmmaking, just to give them a sense of how it all works, and actually if they're going to take on these roles that they've never done before, what's the type of activities that they'll have to do. And that's it really. So I'll stop the sharing so I can see the screen. And thanks very much for listening.
There was one question that Susan was saying just about the falling items, and I have my own question mark. There seemed to be a gap between them falling over and the objects actually landing on them. Is the idea that they get knocked over by the objects, or they trip over before the objects fall down? That's my only question.
So I think the idea behind that was, I mean, Caroline might remember, it was we left that quite late in the day to find a solution for what we wanted to happen at the end. And luckily that hatch was there, so we could use that as our solution. And I think the idea is that their falling shakes the garage, and that makes things fall down on top of them.
Okay, get it.
But we're not, Caroline and I think, are sworn to secrecy. We're not allowed to tell you what happens next.
Fine.
No.
Well,
originally we were going to have them falling over, and we had a stunt. We had a stunt supervisor, but he wanted a day of rehearsal plus a day plus paying. So it soon it got quite expensive and difficult to actually organise that for a shot. So this is why it was done. That we decided to do it in a different way. So they trip, and then things fall on them.
Yes, we were going to have them sort of properly tripping in the car park or something on an oil spill, and it was going to be quite visual, wasn't it, Caroline? But as I say, the cost of the stunt supervisor plus the complexity just made it too difficult. So if we decided to hide the fall and then something else to happen on top of that. I think we even looked at them getting electrocuted by a drill or something, didn't we, at one point?
No idea. I don't think I was privy to that one.
Any questions for Caroline and myself?
I found it I found it surprising. There were 4 writers on the film credited for that little film. 4 script writers.
Well, that's mostly because John was being quite generous. John wrote 90% of the film, and the 3 of us had tiny little bit ideas that got incorporated. Like I think mine was the police siren. So he was quite generous and put us in as well.
And he gave you a writer's credit for a police siren. My goodness, not Hollywood, is it? No.
Well, no, but Hollywood would have half a dozen writers for a film, but yes, they all wouldn't get a credit, you're correct.
No, yes, yeah.
It would, probably would. How did you get Noel Edmonds in it?
Well, he was just very nice. He was quite happy to be in our little film. Yeah, he didn't even mind wearing a bag on his head for 2 days. It was quite a surprise. I think Caroline, you knew him, didn't you?
Sorry?
You knew him, didn't you?
Oh, of course.
Did you have to clear use of his name in the film?
Ooh.
We've just called Film Edmonds, so we might hopefully we'll get away with it.
Could have been Mr. Blobby.
Well, otherwise it doesn't refer to him in any way at all, does it? So you're perfectly fine.
Well, his name is mentioned in full, isn't it? So
that's true. It is mentioned, but I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Whose house was Noel Edmonds' house?
That was the director's next door neighbour.
Right. Do you need permission to film someone's house and say it's filmed in Noel Edmonds' house?
Well, we've taken the Gordon Bob approach.
Get the shots, get out.
Yeah. I'm not asking for permission, just for forgiveness.
No, I think Chris warned me we were filming at least because it's on a private road in Bath.
Oh, it's not public.
No.
No, I thought the police siren was inspired. Actually, Merlin probably made the film. I think. Really.
Yes, the whole film hung around that siren.
Yeah, without that siren, we wouldn't have seen that insight into character. You know.
Exactly. That was the motivation for the whole thing.
Does anyone ask about Caroline and how she?
Well, I was about to say the audio. The audio was just genius.
She never complained once, you know. Never.
No.
I don't. I'm not very happy with the audio, but you know, I think there was one line that was on the boom, and everything else is a mix of laughs and boom and all over the place.
Have you ever been happy with your audio, Caroline?
Rarely. I said there was one line in there. The guy who walked in and asked to buy, he bought a ticket or whatever. His line was perfect. It was on the MKH50. Sounds great. The rest of it, and for people choosing costumes, please don't choose really thick jumpers with high necks and actresses that move around the neck and very noisy, rustly, sheepskinny sort of jackets.
Caroline, at least
putting a radio mic on that was just a nightmare.
How did you get all your equipment in the car?
How long did it take to make the film?
2 weekends.
Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, 4 days. Yeah.
4 days.
Then quite a lot of post. I mean, Alan did post on the sound, and there's some composition there. And
obviously pre-lockdown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then all the edit and post was done.
Hey, Caroline, you could sort of hide the lab mics under here now. It's fine. You never tell.
What's interesting is that I was listened in with the rest of you guys when you were doing your debriefing about it all, and there was much complaint about the heat of the garage. I think I remember at the time.
It was cold, very small, and lots of people in it. As you can see from the photograph that Merlin shared.
Because and the time you took over it, because it's not a lot of scenes in the garage, but was that mainly trying to deal with the final denouement?
I think so. I think we had like a whole day in the garage, didn't we? At least.
Yeah.
Yeah. The scene with the Jehovah's Witness coming in, that was quite challenging because obviously then she pushes the two characters, and then as you say, the death scene was also really challenging. Yeah, we actually didn't have a solution to that to about mid-afternoon on the day, did we, Caroline?
No, not at all.
What, you didn't actually know how Edmonds was going to die? You'd written the whole thing, you'd done all of that, and you still didn't know how they were going to die.
Yeah. Again, we just took an inspiration from Gordon.
I mean, originally there was supposed to be some sort of trip and fall, and with the stunt coordinator, but that all got kind of quite expensive.
Stunt coordinator,
quite expensive.
Yeah.
You could have made it interactive.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, because no one would release Noel Edmonds. They'd all want him dead.
I mean, from my perspective, the worst thing was it was all on a very busy road with buses going by. So it was very noisy.
You got rid of most of that, though. It was pretty good audio.
Alan, well, I'm not so sure about the audio, but I mean, Alan did quite a good job of cleaning it up. I think he played mainly the radio mics and mixed in some boom to get more sort of ambience. But it's mainly radio mics on that.
Yeah, there were a number of times like the scene where the character goes to knock on the front door. And of course, you know, the number of times we had to wait for traffic to stop or go past, kids on BMXs stopping to make fun of us. Yeah, there was a lot of.
And what you're going to do with the film?
An hour.
What you doing with the film now? Now you've made it.
So the plan is to enter into festivals. So the one I showed last time, One Live Stand, we entered that into Encounters, the Bristol one, but it didn't get selected. And so both of them now are going into any festival that opens over the next 6 months. We'll probably spend, I don't know, Caroline, maybe 10 quid a month on each, do you think?
I don't know, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, so sort of small to medium festivals.